Think you know how influence works? Strategy isn't just for humans anymore. Let's break down the real blueprint.
Let's talk about Jeffrey Epstein, because he represents one of the biggest paradoxes of modern power. This wasn't a guy born into some dynasty, he didn't invent a piece of tech that changed the world, and yet he somehow built a network that had presidents, Nobel Prize winners, and tech billionaires in it. He literally became one of the most connected people on the entire planet. So the big question is, how? How did he build this architecture of influence? Let's break it down.
This right here is the central mystery we're going to try and unpack. And look, this isn't just a story about one man's life. It's really a story about how power and influence actually work at the very highest levels of our society. So for a minute, let's forget all the headlines and just focus on the mechanics. How in the world did he pull this off?
Now, this slide is where it gets kind of wild. You really see the sheer distance the guy traveled. I mean, he starts out in a middle-class family in New York. His mom was a teacher's aide, his dad a groundskeeper for the city parks department. No inherited money, no family connections to get his foot in the door. He was a brilliant math student, sure, but he dropped out of college. And somehow, he transformed himself from that guy into the ultimate insider, a so-called billionaire financier who had pretty much everyone who mattered on speed dial. This wasn't just a steady climb up the ladder, it was a quantum leap. And a jump like that, well, that does not happen by accident.
To really get how he did it, you have to see his strategy for what it was. A total masterclass in manipulation. Think of Dale Carnegie's famous book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. But then, just strip out all the ethics. Just tear them away. Epstein basically took those core ideas of human connection and twisted them into a dark playbook. A playbook designed not just for influence, but for protection.
Okay, so the first step in his playbook was all about providing unexpected value. And this wasn't just, flattery or schmoozing. Epstein got something that most people don't. Powerful people have problems that regular people can't even imagine. For example, an academic might have all the prestige in the world, but they desperately need funding. A billionaire has all the money, but what they crave is intellectual credibility. Epstein made himself the bridge between those two worlds. He'd connect a scientist who needed a grant with a wealthy patron who wanted to buy a little piece of that prestige. By solving these unique, high-level problems, he wasn't just doing a favor. No, he was making himself the indispensable man in the middle.
Right, so this next part is absolutely crucial. By all accounts, Epstein was an incredible listener, but here's the twist. He wasn't listening to empathize or to be a good friend, he was listening to gather data. When people talked, he was hearing their ambitions, their fears, their problems. All of that information was currency to him. He just stored all away, creating this mental map of everyone's desires and vulnerabilities. And then he could leverage that map to make the perfect connection, offer the perfect solution, and ultimately create a deep sense of obligation.
And that brings us to his most powerful tactic of all. He didn't just position himself as a guy who knows people, he became the guy. He was the central hub, the main node in this huge, sprawling, diverse network. You need to break into a new market overseas? Epstein knows a guy. You need to throw an impressive dinner party with fascinating thinkers? Epstein can make the calls. He diversified his portfolio of friends, as one person put it. He went way beyond finance, into science, politics, even royalty. He essentially became a human Google for the global elite, the one person who could connect anyone with anyone for any reason.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? For Epstein, networking wasn't something you did at a cocktail party. It was his core business. It was a relentless, methodical, 24/7 operation. He'd go to TED conferences not just to learn, but to scout for interesting people he could parade in front of his wealthy friends. He was constantly sending thousands of emails, maintaining all these connections, and just making sure he was always at the center of the conversation.
So when you put all these tactics together, they all point to this one fundamental truth about elite power. It's not just about what you own, it's about who you can call. The real currency at that level isn't money. It's access.
And to give you a sense of the just staggering scale of this thing, look at this number. So far, from the files we have, analysis has found over 107,000 interactions involving 19,000 different people, all with Epstein right there in the middle. We are not talking about a small circle of buddies. This was an industrial-scale influence machine. And the sheer volume of these connections made his network incredibly hard to break.
And this brings us to this really important concept called protective capital. See, for most of us, capital is, money in our 401k or the equity in our house. But at the highest levels, the most valuable asset you can have is a network that can protect you, that can create opportunities out of thin air and open doors that are sealed shut to everybody else. Epstein wasn't just accumulating money, he was accumulating this protective capital because he understood it was way more powerful.
And this right here, this is the absolute key to the whole thing. His power didn't come from just having a long list of names in his phone. It came from his ability to activate that network. He was the broker. He was the one who could connect person A's problem with person B's solution, creating this giant web of mutual obligation that always led right back to him. He was the architect of a system where everyone owed someone something, and guess what? He held all the IOUs.
Okay, so studying this dark playbook is pretty unsettling. I get it, but it raises a really critical question for the rest of us. Can these underlying principles of networking actually be used for good? Is it possible to build a powerful network for your own career, for your own business, without compromising your ethics? The answer is a definite yes, and let's break down how. So, what does the ethical alternative actually look like? Well, instead of these transactional gifts, you focus on genuine generosity. A really powerful tactic is the 5-minute favor. Can you make an introduction, share a helpful link, or offer a quick piece of feedback that takes you just 5 minutes but provides huge value to someone else? Do that consistently without keeping a scorecard. Instead of listening for leverage, you listen for opportunities to actually help. When someone mentions a problem, don't just file it away. Follow up with a potential solution or connect them with someone who can help. It shows you genuinely care. And instead of trying to be the central hub for everyone, become a super connector within your specific field. Go deep, not just wide. Build your reputation as the most helpful, most knowledgeable person in your niche. That way, your network is built on a foundation of trust and real expertise, not manipulation and obligation.
So we've deconstructed the dark playbook, and we've looked at an ethical alternative. But this whole story leaves us with one final and kind of provocative question. One that I think most of us, in our professional lives, just tend to ignore. Think about it. If a case like Epstein's proves that at the highest levels, your network is your net worth, that it's the absolute foundation of opportunity, wealth, and even protection, then why do so many of us treat it like an afterthought? We focus so much on our skills, our savings, our job performance, but building relationships, we treat that as something extra, something to do if we have time. The really unsettling lesson here might be that we've had our priorities backward this whole time. What if the network isn't the add-on? What if it's the entire game?